Hi guys, I hope you're all well and welcome to episode 116 of the James Layton Fitness Podcast. Now in this specific episode we'll be discussing gym accessories that are worth purchasing to help with your weight training. I'm going to discuss in detail within this podcast. There's obviously more, however, in my opinion, these are four of the most important things that can really help with your weight training. Some of them are a little bit more expensive than others. Hopefully some of these will really allow you to get the most out of your weight training sessions. So the first one is arguably the most important, but it's the cheapest and it may even be free for some of you as well. And that is basically something to record your gym sessions on. So whether that's a notepad or pen, or whether you're using the notes option within your phone, or potentially an actual application. You can get lots of free applications now to track all of your weight training sessions. The key thing you want to be focusing on is tracking your weights, your reps and sets, and this is critical within a muscle building phase and a fat loss phase. Within a muscle building phase, as I've spoken about many times before, the most important factor that influences muscle growth is increasing volume over time. So volume is basically sets times reps times load. So the simplest way for you to actually improve this is just to get stronger within the rep ranges you're already doing. If you're getting stronger within the same reps and sets you're doing currently, then volume will be going up by default. And if you don't actually track this, you don't know whether volume is actually going up or not. So using a notepad and pen and or the notes function within your phone, or getting an application to track this, and you can look back and see, are you actually increasing volume over time within the muscle building phase? If you're doing so, you should be seeing some brand new muscle gains, and if you're not, at least you know that you're not increasing volume, as opposed to not tracking it and then you just don't know whether you're actually making progress or not. So that's the first thing. Track your weight training sessions via notepad and pen and or an application on your phone. The next thing is liquid chalk. This is something I really would strongly suggest, especially if you're doing deadlifts frequently, and it can also really help with your rowing movements, so barbell rows, dumbbell rows, or any variation of that. And the reason why I like the liquid chalk as opposed to the normal chalk, it's a lot less messy, and also some of the containers that the liquid chalk comes in, it lasts for such a long period of time because you really don't need that much on your hands, and it can really make a big difference to your grip. If you've deadlifted frequently, or you notice with any of your rowing movements your grip strength tends to go before the muscle group you're working fails, then I would really strongly recommend some liquid chalk, because it's, again, very cheap, it lasts for a long time, and it's a lot less messy than normal chalk. Especially if you're deadlifting, this is really an absolute must. I'd really recommend liquid chalk. You can get it from plenty of websites online. Look it up, very cheap. You can get a good sized bottle for about £5. I've had mine well over a year now, and I'm not even halfway through the bottle, just because you don't need that much on your hands. Rub it into your hands, it quickly dries, and it does make a big difference to your grip strength. So that's the next thing, liquid chalk. The next thing to consider is, if you're a little bit more advanced, certainly for an intermediate and advanced trainer, I wouldn't recommend this for a beginner, and that is an actual belt. The reason why is, for a beginner, you really want to practice their movements without a belt to start getting used to the movement, start actually making some strength gains without a belt before even considering a belt, just to really ingrain that technique, to really refine that form before considering a belt. But if you're an intermediate or an advanced trainee, someone with 1 year weight training experience or above, this really does make a big difference in terms of the strength for your squats and deadlifts, how explosive you are, how much more stable you feel at the bottom of the squat or the bottom of the deadlift. It really allows you to move more weight. It keeps you safer as well. And the other thing I really like about it is, as I've spoken about before, one of the cues you want to focus on with your squats and deadlifts is bracing your core. And the best way I would describe this is to imagine someone's about to punch you in the stomach. What would you do? You'd deliberately push your abdominals out and you'd hold that fixed position. That's what you want to do within the squats and deadlifts. And by having a belt, it allows you to push your abdominals up against the belt, and this is a great mental cue for the squats and deadlifts, because you're not just pushing your abs out, you're actually pushing against something, and that feeling of having your abs up against something really allows you to know that you're bracing correctly. And again, it makes a big difference to your squats and deadlifts. I use a replica of the Inza belt. There's a very expensive Inza belt from the US, and basically I bought my belt, which is a cheaper replica from the UK, and it's about £70. It's relatively expensive, but you need to think about it as an investment. It's something that will last for probably my whole training career, or certainly for a significant length of time. So if you're serious about your weight training, certainly worth looking at. I think I got mine from strengthshop.co.uk. Look for the Inza replica belt. Very, very good quality belt. As I said, much cheaper than the official Inza belt. When I actually looked into that, the postage to the UK was just stupidly high. I think it might have been more than the actual belt, or the same amount as the actual belt. It was so high. So strengthshop.co.uk, and there's lots of good belts around. Do your research, and that really does make a significant difference. It's something that's worth spending a little bit more money on. Don't just get the cheap ones which have a different width from the back to the front. You want to make sure it's the same thickness all the way around the belt, and that will really make a big difference to your squats and deadlifts in particular. Finally is squat shoes. Now this is arguably the most expensive of all of the accessories I've mentioned, but it does make a big difference for your squats. If you're squatting frequently, this is probably more for the advanced training, someone that really does take their weight training really seriously. It basically has an elevated heel, and the sole is solid, as opposed to a running shoe, flat sole, and also it compresses as well, which means you lose a lot of power within your squatting. So having an elevated heel and it being a solid fixed material, it really does make a significant difference, because it allows you to get deeper in the squat because you've got an elevated heel, but because it's a fixed solid sole, you don't lose any power whatsoever, and it does feel much better than a normal running shoe. And I probably wouldn't squat in anything else now after using my squat shoe. So I think I have the Adidas weightlifting shoe 2.0, I think it's called. If you look at that online, I think they were around £90 at the time, but I think they're a little bit cheaper now. I think they're more like £60-70. So do your research. But if you're a more advanced trainee that squats frequently, really does actually make a big difference. You'd probably think, how does a shoe make that much of a difference? But it does. Just having the elevated heel, fixed solid sole makes a huge difference. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully it's been useful. Hopefully you can potentially purchase some of those, and that can really make a difference to your weight training sessions. So I look forward to speaking to you next week. If you're still yet to download my free ebook, How to Set Up a Nutrition Plan, if you go to James Layton, Layton fitness.co.uk, you'll see a tab at the top of the page called free ebook, and you can download that immediately. Thank you very much.